What's going on, everybody? Shiraz Ahmed here, and today we're going to be talking all about the new luxury tax that was recently introduced here in Canada. Now, what does this affect? How do you work within the limits? And will it even work? Stick around while we answer some of these questions for you. So just a reminder and my obligatory disclaimer, I am not a CPA or licensed accountant. This video is really for entertainment purposes only, and as always, you should always review your unique situation with a qualified professional. Okay, so with the disclaimer out of the way, maybe you've already heard that on September 1st of 2022, the Canadian government introduced the new luxury tax and it's been implemented here in the country. The tax will be applied to any car, plane, or boat over a certain dollar value. Now, the limit is $100,000 for cars and planes and $250,000 for boats. Now, the amount of tax that you'll actually pay is the lesser of either 10% of the total price or 20% of the amount over the dollar threshold that I explained earlier. So, for example, for a $150,000 car purchase, you're looking at an extra $10,000 in taxes. Now, this measure is actually expected to raise about $163 million in new revenue per year, according to the Office of the Parliamentary Budget Officer. Now, from our research on the topic, it seems like there's a majority of people out there that are not super thrilled with how this is actually executed and implemented. And even people who end up agreeing with the idea of a luxury tax, or those seeking to increase taxes on the super wealthy, seem to agree that there may have been better ways to actually tackle this problem. So let's talk about what some of the new issues raised with this new tax are. Now, one major talking point that we found people repeating was that there's an issue with the specific items being targeted by this tax. Only cars, boats, and planes were covered, but why not other luxury goods? Surely someone who spends $150,000, let's say, on jewelry or fur coats can afford the tax even more than somebody who spends the same amount on a car. What about luxury homes? Why not tax homes over a certain threshold? Canada's experiencing a housing crisis, frankly, not a luxury car crisis. Another issue is, frankly, the limits. $100,000 for a car seems like a lot of money, and frankly, it is. That being said, especially with inflation, a lot of cars are fast approaching that dollar threshold. A Tesla Model X and Model S here in Canada have a starting price of $146,900 and $128,900 respectively. And then you're looking at even more once, or should you start adding options. Now, should an electric vehicle owner have to pay that luxury tax? We've just spent the last 10 plus years giving out huge tax breaks on these vehicles, so now why are you flipping this new script? Several models from German manufacturers like Mercedes and BMW have starting prices over $100,000. And getting a hybrid or electric model costs even more on top of that. So will people be willing to pay that premium when it comes with an additional 20% tax? Now, Canadian manufactured products are not very common. But we did find an interview with one director of a boating company here in Vernon, BC. He claims that this tax will undermine the boat building industry in Canada. Now, at a time when businesses only really started to pick up again after a huge decline during COVID. Now, as for planes, I checked with Cessna's website and they actually don't list the prices. And according to Plane and Pilot magazine, a Cessna 172 costs of a minimum of $432,000 US. So I can't imagine it is possible to buy any plane under $100,000 Canadian. Now, does that mean that every personally owned plane is a luxury? It's hard to say that this will end up being good for Canadian manufacturers of these products, who now find themselves having to charge a lot more for the same product. What incentive is there to build a boat or a plane in Canada when you can't compete with international pricing? My opinion is that tax is really just more for show so that politicians can say that they're doing something to address the wealth inequality that exists in the country. Now, Don Drummond, the former federal assistant deputy minister of fiscal policy and former chief economist for TD Bank, had much of the same to say, stating that whatever you define as a threshold for a boat or whatever luxury good is, somebody will do something to get around it. And that's a waste of consumers' time, and it's a waste of the tax officials' time. The marginal tax rate on higher income individuals is already over 50%. If you want it to be 60 or 70%, that would be the way to do it. But of course, this luxury tax is a loaded approach. It's not just saying we want to have the better off paying more tax. We're saying we want them to pay more tax on very specific things and not even close to being all luxury goods. Now, he's not wrong. Many people are even asking why RVs or recreational vehicles, for instance, are not included. There's also an issue of enforcement. Any improvements made within this first year are subject to luxury tax, subject to a $5,000 minimum. So that means that if, let's say, you buy a new Porsche, 6 months later and spend $5,000 more on, let's say, new wheels or rims or a new sound system, you have to pay additional taxes on the $5,000 you spent towards the improvements. But who's checking this? What incentive does a shop or a customer have to report this to CRA? An article about the tax on driving.ca asked this question, joking that the government will have to come and peel the wrap off of your Ferrari if you don't pay up. Now, as funny of an image that may be, I think the reality is simply that people will find ways around some of these things. Since the rule is brand new, I think we'll end up seeing all kinds of new strategies for legally finding ways to minimize these taxes. Okay, so do you own a company that sells one of these luxury goods or products? We'd love to hear from you about how you think that this may impact your business. Perhaps we may be able to even do a video on it. I'll put my contact details at the end of this video. Please feel free to reach out to me. And again, we really appreciate the support for all of you viewers out there. Please remember to hit that like and subscribe button, as it really does help out the channel. And if you hit the bell icon, you'll be notified the next time I upload a video. Until next time, please stay safe out there, you guys. Bye for now.